Today, we are looking at why the universe does not have our backs. It does not have your back. We're going to look at why it doesn't have your back, how it can't have your back, and what the message should be instead. Are you ready? So, if you're like me, you want to grow, you want to improve yourself, you want that piece, that missing piece that's going to sort of make everything make sense, where you feel full, where you feel like, yes, I'm not missing anything, I'm not lacking anything, and where you can kind of stop that self-help search. Because if you know me by now, and you might be the same, you have read a lot of books, you have taken a lot of courses, you have done a lot of self-help improvement work, and maybe you're getting some results. Sometimes you might even be hitting burnout and wondering that the next thing, like hoping that the next thing will be the thing, the next book, the next course, the next tool, the next technique will be the thing that makes it all fall into place. What if though, just for a moment, imagine you've written a book and it's called God Has Your Back, and you send it to the publisher who want to sell books. They want to make money. And they know that the God word is going to create division. It's going to turn people off. And what if they were like, let's call it the universe instead, because the universe has your back, is cooler and sexier, therefore we'll sell more copies, therefore we'll make more money. So that's one reason why we call it the universe and not God. There's more reasons. I mean, think about the second reason around, what if we don't understand God? Then we're not going to call it God. We're going to be happier sitting in the spiritual camp, calling it the universe. But what if you've been doing all of that work and it still feels like something's missing? It's because the universe is limited. Yes, it's massive. Think about the size, the vastness. It's huge. But here's the thing. This is why it's so important to not miss God out. I missed God out for years because the universe sounded sexier and I thought the universe was God. And I wish somebody had taught me what the Bible actually means in a language that I understood and made it make sense to my modern day life. And also, I wish I'd learned about God in the right way, not through a particular religious system, but in its purest way, which is through the Bible without any of the religious stuff wrapped around it. This is about your relationship with God. And if we stop at the universe, we're missing. I can't say it enough. We're missing. We are missing something huge if we stop at the universe. Yes, it's massive. But imagine, have you ever had a dream? Have you ever done a vision board and you've written down what you want when you want it? You've got your SMART goals, you've been specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and you've got your time stamp on it. So I'll tell you a little story. Above where I film here, there used to be my vision, not God's vision, not God's plan for my life, what I wanted to have happen and when. Because somebody told me to put my vision up there, to work it out, to put a time stamp on it. And I'm laughing now, but it was not funny at the time. And in 2015, I put on there up here that I wanted a baby girl. And in 2016, I wanted a boy. In both years, I never asked God, actually. That's something to know. I never went to God and asked God to approve my plan. Never even thought about doing that. I'd heard that I could get what I want when I wanted from going to the universe. So that's what I did, because I wanted to make things happen. So I've got my board up there and I had 2 miscarriages, one in 2015, one in 2016. It was not God's timing for me to have kids. However, I was not down for any of that at the time. I knew I was told I could make stuff happen. I could create my vision and I could get what I want when I time stamped it. And that was a really harsh lesson for me. But one thing actually is that I keep thinking about recently is that we're called back many times to God. That was a time in 2015. A lot of the time it can be through suffering and desperation. Again in 2016, it was only at the end of 2016 that I actually thought about God again. There was so much struggle, so much burnout, so much suffering. It took me a long time to actually get down on my knees and say a prayer and be like, God, I need your help. So when we go to the universe and we're reading all of these books that tell us the universe can do this for you, the universe can do that for you, nobody ever told me this, that the universe cannot hear you, cannot see you, does not know you, and does not have a plan for you. It cannot respond. How crazy is that? So then I would think, well, in those moments where things have happened, that have manifested something, is that the universe? And what I kept finding was that the self-help tools worked. At times, it was sporadic. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So it became a little bit weirdly addictive because it was like, right, well, maybe I need to tweak it this way. Maybe I need to ask that way. And maybe I'm saying the wrong thing. Right, I better say I am instead of I am going to be. And it was so confusing, so confusing. And then I read something where it said, and it says so many times in the Bible, and what I've learned about the Bible is it is not an old book that doesn't make sense, that is controlling. It is a book on successful living if we're willing to let go of the resistance and learn what it actually means. When I live my life in the way the Bible sets out, it is beautiful. And when I deviate off, it's not so beautiful. So what I started to read in here is that what I kept doing was consulting like the moon and the stars and everything up there. And I was hoping that I would be given answers from something that hasn't got the power. So then I came across this, I can't remember what it was, but it was this statement. And you know when something is like a God moment and you know God's speaking to you. And I just saw, I think it was a post or a reel, and it said, why go to the universe? Why not go to the person, the thing, the source that created the universe? Why not go to the dude in charge? The person, God, who can hear you, who knows you, who created you, who knitted you together in your mother's womb, who knows the plan for your life, who knows why you're here, who can connect with you, who you can have a relationship with, a conversation with. Why not go to God, who created the whole universe? Why do we go to the universe that was created that cannot create further? Why didn't I go to God? Because God felt very distant, very religious, very cold, very controlling. I didn't know what I know now. And I don't know it all now, but I know a lot more than I did. So all I do is share on what I've learned and what I wish I'd known years ago when I was lost in the self-help world, the suffering, the next book, the next course, the next thing. And I used to go to the universe, and you imagine like sending out your request, like a little post-it note. And I always imagine like the post-it note landing somewhere in the middle of the universe, in the middle of space somewhere. It's so vast. It's like we put our request out there. Who's going to catch it? Who cares? Does the moon care? Is it going to answer me? No, the moon is powerful. The universe is powerful. But if God created it all, why am I not going to God? Because I don't have a relationship with God. Because actually, I didn't want to give my power back to God and say, you're in control, because I'd been told numerous times in numerous books that I could do it. But I didn't want to do it on my own anymore because I kept hitting a wall. I kept hitting burnout. Or if I did manifest what I wanted, I was still not satisfied. So it's really important that if we keep going to the universe and we are not getting answered, or we do, or it's sporadic, or we're still feeling lost and empty, then maybe this could be God knocking on your heart another time and saying, hey, don't forget me. I created all of that. I created everything within that universe. Come to me and ask me, and your life will be so much better. That's the promise. I mean, it's written a lot better than that, but that's the promise. How good is that? How relieving is that? That we don't have to create the vision. You don't have to map it all out. You can ask, hey, what's the plan? Can we do this together? How good is that? When do you want me to have kids? Do you want me to have kids? Do you want me to start a business? Do you want me to do this? What is the plan for my life? That is so much more relieving. But the trouble is, I found that as a woman, I kind of got this thing that I didn't need a man, so I didn't need God. I could do it all by myself, and that I was a strong, powerful woman. And I had this sort of control over my life that I didn't know. And what I've learned now is that the more control we've got and we think we have, the further we are away from God. When we start to give up that control and we start to fully surrender, not self-help surrender, where it's like, I'll surrender this part, but I'm going to keep this part. When we surrender ourselves fully, completely, and we're like, God, you take it all, because I keep hitting burnout. I don't know what to do next. I need your help. When we get to that humble place of saying, I cannot do life on my own anymore, and actually I don't want to. If you created the whole universe and you created me for a purpose, can we do this together? That's when God's knocking all of the time. And I was talking to my husband about this at the weekend, and I said, how many times do you think you've been called back to God and you've not listened? And he was like, wow, that is a huge question. I'll need to sit with that. And that was on, I think it was on a Saturday morning. He was like, of all the questions to ask me on a Saturday morning. But this is the kind of conversations we have in the kitchen. And then we started to think about it over the weekend, and you could clearly see big moments in our life where we'd been called back: miscarriages, business stress, health issues, recurrent health issues. But we'd still not gone back. We were trying to fix the health issue on our own. We were trying to fix the business issue on our own. We were trying to decide on what route, what decision to make next. We were trying to do everything ourselves. And then there were other little moments in between. There were so many times. God's always knocking on our hearts. Knocking gently. Are you going to listen? Are you going to take me back in? Are you going to stop asking the universe that cannot hear you, see you, understand you, respond to you? Or are you going to ask me, who can give you all of the answers? So I've got 3 scriptures here that when I first came back to the Bible, which I call the Book of Successful Living, they blew my mind, because I didn't know God wanted to do all of this, and I didn't know that he actually cared. I didn't know he actually loved us. Did not know until I started to lean on these 3 scriptures. So the first one is, so basically, I will teach you and guide you in the way you should go. I will teach you and guide you in the way you should go. How amazing is that? I will teach you. I will tell you. I will guide you in your next step, in your life, in your business plan, in your life plan. I will guide you. I will tell you all you need to know. How amazing is that? Have you ever had a decision where you're like, do I stay or do I leave the relationship? Do I start the business or not? Do I leave the job? Do I, whatever? Have you ever been stuck and confused? God's telling us, come to me, and I will help you. I will guide you. I will light up the next step. I will make it super clear. But I never used to trust that, because I would want the full picture. I wasn't happy just trusting the next step. The second scripture is, call to me and I will answer you. Call to me, not the universe. Call to me and I will answer you. Answer you. It won't just be stuck as a post-it note flying around the space or the universe somewhere. Call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. So anything you don't know, any answer you need, any direction, any healing, you might need healing. A couple of months ago, I got this tummy ache again, and I'd had issues with my digestion for quite some time. And now I know that God was like, hey, I can help. I can help. But I was off doing it all by myself, trying to work out what diet to eat, what things to not eat, what to drink, what not to drink, what tool, what breathing exercise would help. It all made it worse. I know it did, because I was so stressed in my own head. And then I had this tummy ache in August. And I knew this theory, but this is why. And this is why I say to the women in Believe, this is the power of our community, because you can read this, you can listen to this message today, you can be like, yes, I'm going to ask, I'm going to trust, I'm going to not go to the universe, I'm going to go to the guy in charge. And then tomorrow, you might forget. I forget. We all forget. This is why we need this word reminded, remembering. We need to keep the word fresh. That's what I'm trying to say. We need to keep it in our hearts and in our minds so that we live it, because it's all right just the word believe. It's all right saying, yes, logically, mentally, I believe, or I'm starting to believe. But this is about our daily actions. You know, are we living and breathing this? And some days you will, some days you'll be off. And it's not about beating yourself up and getting it perfect, but it's about trying. It's about really leaning in and knowing that you might not get it perfect, but if you forget to ask, you'll be reminded by somebody in the group. Anyway, so it dawned on me after about 2 weeks of having these like tummy cramps, and you know your mind goes into like the worst case scenario. And I was trying to work it out, and I was like, is it this? Is it that? Is it this thought that I've been thinking? Is it this situation? Is it this drink? And then I just clearly heard this feeling, you know, when you get like God speaking to you in here. And it was just simply, why are you not asking me? And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, we could do a whole episode on why we don't ask. We're scared to ask in case we're rejected and nobody answers us. We're scared of putting ourselves out there and looking silly and our request just kind of hanging and nobody really dealing with it. But this is the thing, as soon as we ask, God hears us and he's on the move doing something. But anyway, that's a whole different episode in itself. But it's about remembering to ask. So I wanted an answer quick, and I'm like, well, if I ask you, God, it might not come straight away, so I'll figure it out. Thank you very much. Anyway, I asked that day and I said, God, I get it. I've got tummy ache. And I always ask for the root cause of it. Like, what's the root cause of it and what do I need to do next? So is there some cream? Is there something that I need, a drink? Or what do I need to stop or start doing? So I asked for the root cause and something practical to help. And I would say within 24 hours, I opened the cupboard door and I just saw all of the products in the cupboard that were full of gluten. Now, I'm not gluten intolerant, but I do know that I've got this kind of limit. And I just saw it all, and I was eating loads of dairy. And I just got very clearly, you don't need to go and spend loads of money on fancy lotions and potions and powders and all that kind of stuff. Just reduce gluten and dairy again. And I kid you not, within about 2 days it had gone. I could have spent weeks trying to work that out, and I just went straight to God. Call to me, call to God, not the universe. The universe hasn't got our back. It doesn't love us. God loves us, but we don't know that love if we've not built that relationship. Call to me, God, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. The third one is, and this one blew my mind right at the beginning, because, like I said, I was asking the universe, the moon, the stars, everything, some energy, some force out there. You do not have because you do not ask God. And when something, I always say it's like this wet fish slapped across your face. And I remember reading that you do not have the answer, the money, the guidance, whatever it is you want, the peace, because you do not ask God. And it was like, Laura Jane, you are going to the universe. You are putting yourself out there to the universe. You are asking this, you are leaving it up to randomness and chance. And you're not coming to me. But the thing is, and I'm always like, but ask me questions like, but what if you're thinking, I'm always like, but what about this? What if you're thinking, I don't know God, I'm spiritual. So many women say to me, but I'm spiritual. There's a difference. There is a difference between being spiritual and reading about the universe and energy and all that kind of stuff versus believing in God. It's different. Now, certain self-help books will have you kind of believe that you're kind of believing when you're in that spiritual camp. There's a vast difference. Vast. I used to think I was spiritual and a believer. I was so far off believing, it was untrue. So far off. In this spiritual camp, I was so confused, still trying to figure it all out on my own. And it's only through that complete, I am not doing another day on this earth without your help, complete surrender. Was it scary? Yes and no. It was a relief. It was take it all, take it all. And yes, it can be scary because it's like, if we've not got that relationship, but you don't have to get to that point of complete burnout and frustration and desperation. You don't have to be at that point to do it. But a lot of the time we're at that point when we're like, God, take it all. I need your help. Why do we always pray last? We've done everything else. We may as well pray. Let's pray first. Let's go to God first. So the thing is, when we're not a believer, when we don't go to God and we're going to mentors, coaches, the moon, the stars, anything, spiritual books, self-help books that kind of miss out God. We've got to ask ourselves, why do they miss out God? Does the author know God? How does the author know God? And a lot of the time, you see that the self-help books are all built on snippets of the Bible, watered down for easy consumption so that we don't offend people. So is it hard for me to talk about God? It used to be. Now it's just like, I'm not prepared to sit in that spiritual camp thinking that I'm a believer, not getting the results, not getting the answers, still being in control, still living in fear, confusion and anxiety, dipping my toe in to the God thing, being in the I believe in the universe camp, but still suffering. That's a choice. We can be in that spiritual camp, or we can say, hey, God, and this was my prayer at the beginning, you might want to use this too. I don't understand you fully, God. I don't fully get it all, but I cannot do life on my own anymore. I don't want to do it on my own anymore. So can we start to get to know each other? I don't fully get it. There is no harm in going to God saying, hey, and being honest, I'm here, but I don't fully get it. I'm scared that if I even pray, you might not even answer me. That there might be nobody there. I'm scared to put myself out there. I feel a bit silly because I'm talking to you and I don't know if anybody's listening. But it's like, I'm here. Can we do this together? Can you take my life? Can you help me? Can you lead, steer and guide me? You take it, God. You take it. And honestly, that's where your power comes from. It's not through the self-help. The universe has your back so you can go and do anything. It's not about that. It's about God. God has your back, but we have to go to God first. God is knocking all of the time. Gentle, knock, knock, knock. Are you coming? Are you coming home? Are you going to come back? And we're off in the self-help world, figuring it all out. And God's saying that there's an easier way. There's a much easier way, but you have to believe in me. You have to believe. You can't think you're in this self-help universe world believing in the universe that cannot answer you, that cannot give you the plan, that does not know the plan for your life. You have to come back. You have to believe in me. And sometimes that can feel like control. It's like God's controlling you. But actually, when you're in that self-help spiritual world, we're so much in control that God can't get in. And then we're so disconnected from God, it doesn't make sense. We resist it, we rebel against it. But if you've got resistance against God, or you're rebellious against God, I used to tell people they didn't need to believe, they could just believe in the energy in the universe and everything would be okay. I rebelled against it. But if you're in that camp, it just shows how far removed you are from God, how much of the world has got in to take you away. But at any moment you can go, hey, God, I'm back, and I want to get to know you more. And that's about leaning in. We don't need all the answers. We don't need to have it all figured out. We don't need to have a deep, intimate relationship to go back and say, hey, God, I'm done. I'm done doing life on my own. Can you start to help me? And I guarantee when you go with a genuine heart, God knows your heart. So if you go genuinely and say, hey, I need help, you are not going to be left hanging. You are not. It is not possible. God is not going to leave you. You are going to be helped. So, does the universe have your back? No, it can't. Does God have your back? Yes, if you allow him in, if you become open to it. And remember, God only needs 1% faith, a mustard seed size of faith. It's teeny. And as soon as you go back and you answer that knock, that call, I mean, it says in the Bible that people have been called back 7 times, 77 times. I think we've been called back hundreds of times. And it's how long are you going to keep suffering? How long are you going to keep suffering and doing life on your own and trying to figure it all out and trying to plan it all? I can help. I can tell you, I can talk to you. We can talk to each other. We can communicate. It is so good. It is so good when you get God's plan. It just works a lot better. So that's the V. The V in believe is all about God's vision, God's plan for your life. And it'll be and the thing is, some women, me included at the beginning, you're almost like, yeah, but surely my plan is better than God's plan. That's what I was like. I was so arrogant. Yeah, but my plan is really pretty and it's amazing. And what I think should happen and when is amazing. God's plan was better, much better than my plan. But it's was I willing to surrender that? And when you know, I always do this for God's vision part, when you know what God's vision is for your life, takes the pressure off. And you just get the next step and you're you just know what God's plan is for your life. You know the vision. And then that's the E of believe at the end. So you've got the BE is who you're being. The LIE is what lies you're buying into. The V is God's vision for your life. And the E is all about you having a completely different experience in life. The universe cannot give you that, but God can. So if you feel called to join us in Believe the community, it is so accessible. It is full of amazing women who are building that relationship, who don't want to do life on their own anymore, who want God's plan for their life, who want him to lead and guide them, not in a crazy way, in a beautiful way. Well, life works. Well, life is much better. Well, you're choosing life. That's the thing. It says here, choose life. And we get to do that. You get to do that in the community. We can do this together. There's a new podcast, new video every single week where you can learn about this from somebody who used to resist and rebel against it and now wishes somebody I wish somebody had taught me what I'm teaching now a long time ago. And that's why I do what I do. This is what we do in the community. This is what we do at the live events. This is what we do every single week in the podcast and in the videos. So please share it with a friend who you know would benefit too. And I'll see you again next week.